let's talk about channels for a second here
Sure.
for content distribution. So there's a time and place for email. There's a time and place for LinkedIn, for Facebook, for YouTube. Can you shed some light on what situations make sense for utilizing any of these or other given channels?
Yeah. So all of these channels will at some point in time have a place in your distribution mix. But I think the thing you got to look at the most, more than anything, and this is another awkward thing for marketers in the industrial space, the price of your product. The price of your product actually will have an enormous impact on which channels are right for you, because you got to think about, this is where kind of the analysis and the metrics go into it. But if you're selling a $5,000 product, you probably shouldn't be distributing content paid, at least on LinkedIn, because it's too expensive and you're going to lose money to acquire a customer. Not worth it. Now Facebook, if you could target properly, much better. You'll pay, a quarter of the price, if not less, to find that exact same audience if you can target properly. YouTube, same deal, extremely cost effective. So to me, the best channels are the ones that are cost effective for you, where most of your audience lives, and where you can get at them repeatedly with the same kind of content over and over and over again. So that's really my best advice, is to figure out which products you have or solutions you have that have the most upside for you as a business, and as a marketer you feel you can make content around the best and promote. Figure out how much that costs the average customer for you over a year, and then every succeeding year, because everyone in the industrial space who's listening to this, you probably are relying on the residual revenue model of wear items or consumables, or replacement parts, or like service maintenance or something like that. So figure out over like 5 to 6 years, like what's the lifetime value of this customer, and then let that kind of stuff influence what's the best channel for me to push content out on, at least in a paid media manner. Because if you do that upfront work, it'll reveal itself.
I'm going to ask you one follow up there. So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies, I've seen this happen in my own conversations. You say Facebook in B2B industrial, and they go like, isn't that kind of like, for B2C and for moms to share pictures of their kids or whatever. But talk about the power of Facebook specifically, just because I think a lot of manufacturers wouldn't necessarily go there first, or think of that as a good channel for them.
Yeah, I would. I mean, to anyone who doesn't think their customers are on Facebook, ask yourself, are you on Facebook? Are your brothers or sisters on Facebook? Are your kids on Facebook if you're of a certain age? And the chances are probably yes. And they probably still spend more time on Facebook than any other social media channel. Now, all of the ethical problems of Facebook is a totally fair debate. And you can have that on your own time. But to me, like the idea that your customers are not on Facebook is ludicrous, because they are. And you can, depending on the industry you're in, you can just target by the job title. So if you want to go find a manufacturing engineer on Facebook, guess what? You can target them by that job title. If you want to find a welder on Facebook, guess what? You can target them by job title. If you want to find a CNC machinist on Facebook, guess what? You can target them by job title. And you can do all of the really cool targeting things with it. Now, all those job titles to me sound like industrial job titles that most people listening to this podcast would want to get in front of, depending on what you sell. So, and also these people are on here, they're engaged. And if you want proof of that, go find some of those Facebook groups that are out there around those kinds of categories, and go see how many people are posting and engaging on those groups. Because you'll be, I'm not pleasantly surprised, but you will be shocked at how many people are on there doing that, and how many are participating and active on there. And frankly, they're just there to be found. I mean, you just need a good content offer, a good content strategy, and you can get them really for a lot cheaper than you would, actually, than you would to try to do a print ad in your trade organization magazine. I mean, this is an exponentially larger audience that you can get for way cheaper for impression, and you can measure it in a way that's important to you. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why Facebook is a debate as an advertising platform for industrial marketers or industrial companies, but I mean, you just make me look a lot better for thinking that.
Well, it just comes back to that simple question. Where's your customer? Where do they consume content? How do they consume content? You just need to understand them and how they consume information, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like the other thing is like the algorithms that these social media platforms are using, they're so much smarter than me and you and presidents and CFOs and CEOs of companies. Like you can it's firmographic, it's demographic, it's job title, it's age, it's geographical. Like you can get so focused if you want to, and it's really not that difficult to use. I think one of the things that happens with a lot of ad platforms for a lot of marketers is they overcomplicate it. Like they're trying and they try to do the wrong things on these platforms, which is we get. Let me pull this back to content distribution because I feel like I got off topic here. So like I think a lot of people want to go on Facebook and go send out their nice new like their Swiss Tech CNC machine or whatever it is they're selling and go, hey, book a demo with us now without warming that audience up with anything else beforehand. And it's like this goes back to my point about awareness versus intent. So like Facebook, I just punched my microphone there. Facebook and LinkedIn are awareness channels and Google is an intent channel. So awareness literally means you need to disrupt them in their newsfeed with content that is compelling and educational and valuable and entertaining, and get and interrupt literally their scroll pattern and get them to engage with that. Whereas on Google, these people know what they're looking for because they're typing it into the search engine. Like, I am looking for a used CNC machine. And you want to make sure that you're popping up on that with Google ads, or if your SEO is good enough, your own organic search result. So when I'm thinking of Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm not thinking of that sort of conversion. Like, people aren't going on LinkedIn or Facebook looking for used CNC machines. They're going to look at what other people are posting for content. And so me as a marketer, I want to make sure that when I'm distributing content, I'm distributing content that's very similar to what my audience is looking for. I just need to package it up. Again, this goes back to packaging, making it interesting and compelling enough that they'll click through and read it and consume it. So that's sort of how, in my opinion, content distribution works in a very simple, high level. I just think a lot of people don't have the discipline to allow that to play out because it takes time.